Hello, hello. The next one is a song from Palestine.
So welcome to Radio Against Repression, everyone. We have a very special guest today. Irwan Ahmett is joining us live from Jakarta. Good afternoon to you, Irwan.
Good afternoon, Alex.
There's lots of ways to get into the artwork and the projects that you've been doing with Tita Salina in Indonesia, but also all over the world. And like I say, I've been a great fan of this stuff. And obviously we've talked about different ideas and projects over the last few years. But I felt as though I was just getting the train down to the studio today, and I was reading a text by Achille Mbembe, Necropolitics, and I was just kind of going through it, and I found his concepts of the micro-fascisms. And it really jumped out at me because I wanted to kind of first acknowledge this culture of micro-fascisms that I grew up in as a European, as a white person, as a male. And Mbembe is very clever to talk about the way in which micro-fascisms kind of creep into the cracks of things. Just to be really clear, like, I think for me, a basic definition of fascism is that it turns people, human beings, subjects, into objects. And then I think from that very basic definition, it's easy to see that we can all do this a little bit. But particularly, I guess it's culturally coherent for sort of Northern Europeans I think it's easy to make the mistake of thinking that, like, oh, well, my solidarity is with this group of people, or my emergence in this group of people means that I somehow can avoid these like microfascisms that can creep into the cracks. And I think that's where mistakes get made. And I think it's also good to just acknowledge that. So that's like, I just wanted to like sort of try and like clear the air, like burn some sage and get the kind of like the haunting ghost of fascism out of the room first, because it's like really ever present. And one of the other things, I guess, that is part of the microfascism is that for Europeans, they become very Eurocentric, right? So we try and describe everything through our own experiences from here, and maybe that's all we can do. But actually, Irwan Ahmett, thank you so much for joining us today. We don't need to dwell on the European experience because we have lots of other types of experience that we can draw on. Your work with Tita Salina over the last 15 years ranges from instigating informal community projects and campaigns through the artistic method to meditations on the evolutionary journey of humanity itself. There's a great richness, I find, to the work that you're offering. You've made work that appears, like I said, all over the world, from Asia to the Americas to Europe. Earlier this year at the Australian Centre for Contemporary Art. But you've also done a talk for TEDx Jakarta, which I thought was kind of interesting. And there's just so many exhibitions and interventions that I couldn't begin to mention them all. But last year, you were both also included in the Venice Biennale, to name one sort of very significant location for our art listeners. You've been proactive across multiple intersecting demographics and housing realities across Jakarta, including the ongoing annual walking project along the North Coast that myself and others joined you upon in 2019, the Tiara Utara, or pilgrimage, and the work just keeps coming. I'm very excited to speak with you today. Irwan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome, Alex. Well, thank you for such a nice introduction. And also, we had a nice experience in Jakarta, right? 2019, during the pilgrimage to the north. So more or less, I also get certain kind of good impression with your thought, our conversation, too many things during that almost 10 days or 2 weeks projects, right?
Yes. Yeah, it was, I guess it was like somewhere between 10 days and 2 weeks. Time dilated a little bit, but this was, 2019, and it felt at the time as though it would be one of the like really like defining experiences. And in many ways, it did define a lot of things that I went on to think about myself personally. And I know that my partner, Anna Kostreva, was also very influenced by the experiences there. But of course, then immediately the pandemic came along in 2020, and suddenly, again, the whole perspective on like the human body and how medicines are distributed around the world, and just like all of these very visceral but also very political problems became like the meta text, became like the big problems that we had to face. And I know that
I think it's a very it's kind of post moment during the pandemic, but now maybe we are facing a different kind of pandemic. That's I'm really skeptical about it.
Yes, absolutely. And well, we wanted this. There's lots of things that we're trying to get into this hour of radio. Maybe we could jump into some of the work that you've made, which I think is really interesting in the context of censorship, because we're here talking about these different forms of culture which are being lost to the silencing and chilling effect of the censorship here in Germany particularly, but we want to obviously open that out to different perspectives and sort of add things to this diagram. And I wanted to speak with you to ask you about the work that you made, which is called An Autopsy of History, and to think about, creative, let's say like creative responses, or I want to say like more than just kind of the creativity in the sense of like the aesthetic of it, but also this kind of like very critical thinking, I think, which underpins this work. And so I wondered if you would talk to us a little bit about that piece and how it came to be. And this was a kind of performance lecture where you were going into a particular fruits from particular locations in Indonesia.
Yeah, I think if we're talking about this project, that for me, this is something really unexpected ending, because the projects happened for like 5 years, right? So the autopsy history is kind of the 4th years of the projects. It's like driven by the manipulation of history that I learned from school, but also in our daily decision, right? So let's say we are loaded by propaganda which is not really true, but then we forced to believe it until the fake is become truth, the truth. I think the project itself is strongly related with the events during the Cold War, when there is the high tension in between two powers. So meanwhile, in the middle, Indonesia, it's like erupted to the massive violence. I think as in a matter of fact, this also become very misleading information through generation. Like we never know what happens, and also a lot of values added to the violence. So somehow the violence have different kind of meaning and purpose, which is considered it is part of the build of our nation or our live today. So, but in the matter of fact, the censor itself, it's never gone. I mean, in every decision in human lives, it's full with censor, because human mind it's like brutal. That the imagination and the desire, or maybe the evil side of human mind, it's so unbelievable brutal. So that's why the censor perhaps is certain kind of I don't know to say it, but the mechanism to neutralize that feelings. So this project, it's led me to observe about what is the excitement inside the violence through the personal investigation to myself. Because when we ask to the history is already manipulated, right? So through many layers that we cannot really get real what exactly happened during the massacre.
Yeah.
So, and during that time, it slowly appear a lot of sites, especially in Java. That place, it was a mass graves. So because the background story is like the killing of the communists or the leftists, right? So and not all the victims are communists, but maybe it's someone hate each other or there is no trial. People get abducted and then killed hundreds in a day. So how to keep it that uh, the postmortem it's so difficult. So they have to dig it or put on some like caves or uh, river. But it's quite often also to bury it in the fertility forest, right?
Right.
So some people witness that moment. So then give a sign for future generation. This place, it was a mass grave. So some people actually planting a tree on that site as a mark. So perhaps the truth will appear someday. It's become fruits in after a decades. So
Fruit trees.
my
Yeah.
my observation is like visiting that site and collecting the fruits, and it fermented with the sugar, which is the sugars usually in Java brought by the European, right, during the Dutch colonization. And then it's like a mix of pickles, but also it's the symbolic to the postmortem autopsy, the hidden or a sensor through generation will come directly to our bodies. So just like bodies to bodies, trauma to the bodies, but also it looks like connect to the biblical stories, right? When Adam and Eve eat the fruits and become humans.
Wow. Yeah. I hadn't.
Forbidden fruit.
Yeah.
So this tropical fruit is something like that. And then it's turned out when we become humans, then we become very dangerous apes in this planet.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Um, there's a lot that's contained in there, which is why I really enjoy it as an artwork. And I really appreciate sharing that with us. It's very hard, I think, to overstate how important that kind of work is in order for people to make sense. And I think it's really telling as well that I think very often you describe by saying, look, this is something I'm trying to work out for myself as well. You know, I'm not just doing this as a hero or whatever. Like, this is important. I need to process and to look for the evidence and the truth after the event, which is this kind of the act of the autopsy is also there's something ceremonial there as well about how the human body is kind of laid out and the human body becomes the archive of its own truths, let's say. I guess I wanted to ask a question a little bit about why the body is so important for processing kind of like these forms of trauma, and why is it that actually the body becomes a site of exploration in Indonesian culture and in other cultures around the world, whereas in Germany the memory culture, as it's called, I mean, I would refer to it as traumatic memory culture, is much more kind of reserved, and it's like a big stone that gets laid down, and then everyone is supposed to be kind of silent and in awe of these deaths that took place. Whereas I think the alternative way of approaching memorialization is to remember the lives which existed, and I think reenactment does that in a more effective way. Would you agree there, or?
Yeah, I think it's especially in Java, it's strongly related with the ideological waves, right? So I have to say, uh, in the from the megalithic period, but also vividly that we can see from the early Hindu Buddhist period, pre-Islamic Java. So that we can see lot of reenactment by carving the volcanic stones to create a storytelling, right?
Huh.
Or it's just like who is the evil, which one is the safest, which one is the uh, protagonist or antagonist. So this kind of storytelling, it's become a permanent shadows for some people who accept the truth. So kids could be influenced by that architecture's experience,
Yeah.
and it's very clear that we can see it in every beautiful old temple. It's decorated with this kind of enactments or story. So that's why when in Indonesia, especially in Java, a lot of propaganda or body, it's become the agent of something to tell um, from the really to create another reality through the human bodies.
Right.
Yeah, and sometimes this has become a very influence how people facing a disaster or crisis or conflict like war or the pandemic.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm going to play one of the sounds that you've sent us as well, because I think it's the medium encourages imagination. So let's listen to the first sound that you sent me, and then let's have talk about what it is afterwards. Okay, this is an intriguing sound. I actually don't know what it is yet either. We haven't. Yeah, thank you for submitting that one. What's going on there, or like, do we need to know? Do we get to know? I'm always interested in.
Yeah, I can explain. Because sound is create imagination. Maybe you already have your own imagination through that cracks or glitchy sound. Right? But I recorded from the heavy stuff doing the minings. So especially if we're looking up the geographic location of Indonesia, which is changed by mountains and volcanoes and also tectonic plates push it up the sedimentation, like
right.
a lot of very valuable materials relatively easy to access. So that's why mining is kind of the new approach of colonization,
Right.
but also apply through produce certain kind of sound uh, when it's exploited.
Yeah. Yeah. It's this thing of stones and minerals being the interconnecting elements of everything, you know, like, I mean, all of these devices that we're using to do this show are running off of rare materials and so on. So I really appreciate that kind of material texture to the sound. And there's this kind of like utilitarian quality, which makes me think about like some of the work that you do with regards to like community organizing and sort of like putting yourself into a situation where there's, you know, maybe there's some work around like awareness around like the AIDS epidemic, for example, or there is like there's awareness raising, consciousness raising, one could say, around like housing in Jakarta, for example. And I guess I am interested in that question of how, as artists, we sometimes walk a line a little bit between what we're creating, what we're participating within, and then kind of and then how that's kind of presented then again to the outside world. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a question which is going to have like specific answers with each different context, I would imagine. But yeah, I don't know if you want to speak to that shortly, or that kind of approach that you have, which seems to be like a bit of it is it's like I think one of the really great realizations that was very much ahead of its time is that I think you and Tita both realized that if you can like frame things in a certain way, you can actually get content out to like very different, very broad audiences. And I feel like you've been very successful at doing that.
Yeah, I think the process of making art for us is just like a very intuitive. It's a very hard to have like a fixed plan, but also to project what gonna be outcome, uh, to imagine how our work is gonna be looks like. But the process itself, perhaps it's more challenging because then we have to, usually we put ourselves in a certain kind of situation, mainly in a very specific, like the ecological problems or things that hardly to articulate by words, or like you said in the beginning, a censorship. So, and we have to really, really find a way how to articulate it, especially if we're talking in a very conservative society or some subject is considering as very sensitive. But it's like a privilege for us to work as an artist. There is a lot of possibility that we can use like a symbol or metaphor, or even things that unspoken, because our body, our process itself, it's already generates certain kind of imaginary in a public, but not in a wide public, right? Maybe in a certain kind of public.
Yeah, exactly. And different things will mean different things to different people. Absolutely. We were speaking earlier this year because I think the situation in Gaza and the West Bank was deteriorating further and has even deteriorated much, much worse between, then and now. And we are also recording this 2 weeks before it goes on the air. So there will be changes to the situation between now and then. One thing stood out to me from our conversation with regards to that, which was that you said that we must force ourselves to consume the violence that occurs because it is a part of the truth. And you have another work which I was looking at, which is called Cranial Relic. So cranial relic, so something in the head, something in your skull. 11 artifacts of extinction and survival since 1.5 million years. So this was a text that Tita and yourself wrote already in the pandemic at this point. So you wrote that the evolutionary line of the great Homo erectus was artistically inclined before being wiped out by Homo sapiens. So I was trying to connect this idea of the artistic strain of human evolution being killed, basically wiped out, by the strain of evolution which we are now, and to think about whether there is an element of that kind of historical sensitivity, which means that as artists now we become sensitive to the victims of genocides in all over the world, but also the one that's going on right now in Palestine. And then, like, I know that you are working on a project with the Indonesian hospital in Gaza, and I wondered if you would speak to us a little bit about how that project is developing and sort of this broader context of how things look from your part of the planet.
Oh, wow. Actually, this is like it's a very strange moment. The cranial relic we finished during the pandemic, right? So when we are on lockdown and we cannot go anywhere, so suddenly our body is kind of exposed by the very deep time, because there is no time for us to go outside. So maybe it's good for kind of meditation to our existence. Perhaps that's the first time that we feel the existential crisis as a human. But also the possibility to reflect to our cousins, the Homo erectus, which is clearly appears in Java like 100 or 200,000 years ago.
Right.
There is no hypothesis that Homo sapiens it's like wipe out the Homo erectus, not like Neanderthals in Europe, right?
Right.
So because the Homo erectus it's extinct first before Homo sapiens arrived. So there is like the period, the empty period of time in Java when there is no human enough. So, but I think to be honest, to see the remain of the Homo erectus, that we have to pay respect to our cousin, which is they already evolved and developing some magnificent tools. Of course, not like our gadget, but the shapes, the stone tools, it's become more and more advanced. And there is like a specific kind of materials they have to choose from which location, what shapes, and also what kind of animal they have to hunt, and what area they have to find food, for example. So I strongly believe there is a culture, but unfortunately it's gone. Perhaps there is no clear reason, maybe volcano eruption or pandemics, or maybe just the nature doesn't want that creature anymore for some reason. That's so from that period of time, I'm collecting some artifact from Homo erectus, and I imagine this kind of humans to survive in the very wild area in old Java, right? So we come to some point to survive. They have not so much choice, which is maybe they have to do something non-moral things. Maybe they did a cannibalism. Maybe also they had a fight. But also the most interesting part is the way they survive to be like still continue their life. And from that period, I always observing. It's again we lucky that have so much monkeys. It's not us, but monkey somehow still keep some traits as a colony. They have a politic, and also they somehow kind of manipulate some specific thing, right? So I think there is a mysterious code from the evolution that we still don't know understand completely.
Yeah.
But I think if we compare, of course, I'm not like a scientist or paleoanthropologist, but it's very clear to see from the pigtail macaque or a long-tailed monkeys, which I used to had a performance with them for 5 days.
Right.
Then we can really exchange the solidarities. That's wherein there is no words that we can share grooming time together with them.
Wow.
So, in that level, grooming, it's become the body politics between us. We connect as an apes, and in certain kind of level, these apes, it's have the empathy to me.
Wow.
For example, the pigtail macaque, it's become very close. She is like a very aggressive, but then it's turned out it's become very close to me, and one moment she's very jealous to Tita. Because I'm too close with her, right? So
That's adorable.
and I think as if we can see the evidence of empathy, of a jealousy,
Yeah.
or of feelings through different species, why we cannot have these feelings to humans?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
think
yeah.
what I really see in Gaza, that's a lot of dehumanize, but also against that, when we are together in a group, that's become so very dangerous apes. It will destroy this planet. So it's not will happen in Homo erectus or Neanderthal or the apes, but we are very paradoxical creatures, right? We believe to certain kind of story, but also that's why the humanity, it's a very rare, I find out. This is very specific to us, and which is now it's I feel where this humanity, I don't know, when we more common to see the impunity in our school.
You know, one of the things that we've done as a species is create this kind of cult around technology and science, which has produced this very sort of single-minded idea of how things work and how reason indeed should function. But now we've got to the point where actually the rocks, like the technology, which is just a bunch of different rocks put together, is kind of speaking back to us. And yeah, maybe we could talk a little bit about that. But maybe that goes hand in hand a little bit with the situation that's going on in Palestine, but also in other places around the world where you have this kind of technological calculation of the conditions required for life, and then the technological calculation of like who gets to survive and who doesn't get to survive, because we essentially we've walked into really a world. I think we're really on the threshold of walking into this world where human emotion is being removed from the calculations that are being done about human lives, like who gets to live and who doesn't get to live. And we're also paradoxically immersed within the recording, the reporting, the evidence, the exposure to these forms of violence more than ever before. And yet it has this effect of deadening the senses and of normalizing it. So there's something there about the way in which like these rocks, these minerals are kind of allowing us to explore the worst parts of ourselves.
Yeah, I think first that I would like to add some things like from the perspective of the empathy, right? So it's a very interesting evidence that in somehow some Indonesian, they're feeling so much sympathy to Gaza, especially in the north part of Gaza, Bait Lahia, which is very close to the border of the occupation, right? So, and some people start to collect the money like a cent by cent. It's not by the state. It's like really people contribute very small amount of money.
Yeah.
And after years, it's become massive amount of, because population in Indonesia is huge, right? We are number 4 populated country in the world. So then we succeed as people from Indonesia, not government, not organization, just people, to build a hospital in northern Gaza.
Amazing.
That's why they name it this hospital. It's an Indonesian hospital, not because of the roles of the G2G, but like human to human. That's why when the people are really unbelievably hurt when this hospital targeted as a bomb, but also they say there is a tunnel behind the hospital, right?
Right.
So I think how this, again, in this kind of technology, I think I agree at some level the roles of the minerals or rocks or transform into the mass destruction weapon or into the satellite. It's become very obvious to see how we are still struggling to find ourselves as a human being. I think 2 years ago, I went to, again, occupy islands, Papua, this beautiful Papua. It's occupied by Indonesia somehow. And then, and was like, there is one of the largest copper and gold mining in the world.
Right.
So, and it's guarded by the highly grades of militaries and also very safe bulletproof trucks for the workers.
Wow.
So, and they really, for almost 3 decades, they extracting the mountain and it's creates a massive hole. So the mountain is not really mountain anymore. Actually, you can see from the satellite, there is a huge hole in the top up of Timika. And the waste from the mountain, it's create like desert, dead desert, like no evidence living creature there.
Yeah.
Because it's toxic and all damaged materials. And then I have a conversation with the Amungme people. Amungme people is a community or the indigenous who pay a respect to the mountain. So for them, the mountain is a portal, a bridge to connect between the ancestor of different worlds.
Yeah.
To connect between the reality and different realms. So when this certain kind of very sacred and very strange material, not only the mountain. So when they crush the mountains, become a small particle, and this particle nowadays become in our gadgets, in our smartphones, in our technological daily life. I think the ancestor, perhaps the gods, it's become different kind of material haunted us. That's why we hardly to ignore this device, because there is a curse behind the process, right? So it's again like if you're talking about the contribution of the minerals to create a mass destruction weapon, it's a strongly line connection between these two. How can I say the human ambition, exploitation, and how this also become coming again to us with the very strange experience or dreams. Not like really dreams, but I don't know how to explain, but anxiety, but also not really feel, not really grounded and grabbed to something. We feel on the floating on the different kind of reality.
So I'm going to play the second sound file that you've sent us, and let's listen to that now.
I have to add that's the sound of Tita Salina, one of the respectful figure from Mount Merapi.
Yeah, I just wanted to welcome the listeners back. We're speaking today with artist Irwan Ahmett, live from Jakarta. This is Radio Against Repression. You can find us by putting that title into any of your podcast apps and using the precious minerals to keep attention on the content that we're trying to get across, because the show comes from a context of censorship and the chilling effect of that decision by governments around the world, but particularly in Germany. So this sound, which we've just heard, Owen, is a kind of performative clip, or is it something which you guys worked on together, or what's going on there exactly? I mean, I have my own sensitivity to how it sounds and what I think it's doing for me, but tell me a little bit where it comes from.
Yeah, at the moment we're still working on the new documentary film. It's story about the migration of materials. So again, it's about the how humans play a role by moving a large amount of materials for infrastructures, developments, or economical purposes. And its sound, it's come from Tita Salina. He represents as a Merapi. And the story is come from the vocal cord, right? As a human, we have this kind of sound that the produced when we were born. As the fragile creatures try to call the mothers. I think almost all the crazy people or brutal people also have this kind of fragility moments. It's called for health. And it's like create certain kind of empathy from the mothers, fathers, and then without the help of the people surrounding, this fragile human is will be died. So I think this moment is when the vocal cord connect from both sides. It's produce certain kind of emotion and feelings. But it's turned out it's also symbolically connect to our islands that we live. There is in between two tectonic plates, right? So this when the tectonic plate push each other, it's create. We never saw it because it's so deep under the layers of the earth. But then when it's happened, it's create earthquakes and eruptions.
Yeah.
So the two vocal cord connect together. Actually, he tried to reenactment the sound from the eruption of the volcano from 2010.
Wow. Yeah, and that's, I mean, for me, it ties a lot of things together because there's an element in there which, of course, is going beyond language, and it is also provocative. Like it provokes this kind of fear response. So sometimes I also find it like humorous in a way. And there's another recording which I hope we have time to play at the end as well, which is even harder, let's say, to locate the language of. And so what I find is happening then is that, yeah, there is this kind of like gateway where something else enters into my body, something else enters into the space that we're sharing, something enters into the airwaves, right? So it's carried on these frequencies, and then it will vibrate the water around my brain in a certain way, and then it will change what my brain perceives. So this is like, anyhow, what happens if you do a mantra in meditation, or if you have like a singing bowl, like it does actually open up a different perceptive reality. And then the place I tend to go with from there is that, like, you know, spirit world is like really unreasonable. You know, like spirit world wants human world to conform to spirit world's rules. And so we can, like, sometimes humans like end up doing like really, really ridiculous things, like really overly ambitious or really cruel, you know, or really artistically beautiful, musical, you know, but spirit world is kind of like always there, like underneath the surface. And then I think you have this like eruption, like you say, like the eruption of the volcano. This is like a perfect way of like describing, I think, part of these kind of this sort of trauma of being a human being and being connected to spirit world like all the time. And yeah, so I just really appreciated that as a sound, because I feel like sound has this particular quality and particular it's a particular modality that kind of brings things forth, that kind of like brings things into a different type of perceptive universe, and that's something which is very rich and very special. So I really appreciate that. This reminds me a little bit of the work that you were doing, I think, last year, where it was like the primal scream of humanity, and you were actually doing a performance yourself with some, as this kind of like primal birth moment of humanity. Is it like a rebirth moment now? I'm not sure.
Yeah, something like that. It was in Chemnitz, right?
Right. Yeah, I get a lot of texture out of these things, and it feels as though there's just a lot of like archetypal truths which you and Tita like are able to come back to with a lot of clarity. And I think part of that truth is that, you know, humanity, I mean, is this true? I don't know. Would you say that perhaps one of the things, like just from reading your work again, like in the last couple of weeks, one of the things that you guys come back to is this kind of eternal, like humans have this like ongoing relationship with fear, and then they also have this ongoing relationship with kind of like creativity. And it seems like these things are always out of balance, and that we're always trying to balance like our anxieties about the world we live in, and then the kind of creative opportunities to get through day-to-day life.
Yeah, thank you for such certain kind of compliment. Yeah. I think for us, maybe our work, it's gonna be quite dramatically changed because a certain kind of funding politics or situation in Indonesia as well is not so conducive anymore. Like you said before, a lot of populism or fascism appears. It's become more and more open speak, not only in social space but in the real space. There is a possible for us maybe to have to find a nice perspective to articulate our work. I still don't know because it's gonna be it's become more it's not easy anymore, but maybe in the next 10 years this time it's gonna be super interesting to learn and study. Yeah, and as an artist also who stigmatized by the narrative of the global south, right? We become very tired with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And somehow how to can really navigate in this kind of projection from the Europe to third world country, wild, crazy, rough, but and still can manageable by them. So that's why we have to really critical from the end this part, which is, are we still manageable by certain kind of power, or we have to find a way or different kind of mindset to face yeah, not interesting world.
Yeah. That's the kind of paradox.
Yeah, and this process also for this the how we say the mantra things, it's come from the period of when we heard so much explosion outside our body but also inside our body, right? So these two explosion, it's constantly in the last 2 years, it's become more and more. I don't know how to handle it. We never know. It's gonna be create certain kind of trauma in generation if we not really stop it, or there is no solution uh, um, from us, from the leaders.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, from the vanguard and also from, I guess, the older generation. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to, for time reasons, I'm just going to play like the last 2 minutes, if that's okay, of the last clip that you sent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I have no words for that.
Yeah.
Just perhaps that the story behind it. Yeah, a short sentence. That's the silence spell.
It's the silence spell. So, okay, wait, hang on. Someone's playing games on me. What's going on?
Well, when we spend our time near the volcanoes, actually there is quite shocking for me. Like some civilization, they extinct many times due to the eruption. For example, there is a site, it's already 4 times people demolish and come back again, demolish and come back again.
Wow.
So the resilience body, it's makes them want to come back to this risk. There is a possible better living with risk because there is 2 factors. First, waters, and the second, the fertility.
Right.
And then how they deal with that fear because they see immortal fears, right, from the massive volcanoes.
Yeah.
So they create the stories, the imagination that they could speak to the volcanoes. The volcanoes give a sign for some people, and there is some special people they give offerings to the creatures. I think this kind of mutual relation between risk, but also the benefit to live inside the risk.
Yes.
Yeah, and somehow when the power beyond the body appears, like hot clouds or the eruption, they try to communicate by create a mantra. A mantra is very grounded with the daily life of the people, the imagination, but
Right.
also the visualization, the smells of sulfur, the noise from the hot stones, the terrifying lava. So all this create certain kind of exposed by the trauma, created by the natures, but also how human deal with that. Like when I spend one night next to the mountain, so the explosion or the ground of the sound is never stop. It's like always there.
Wow.
So I project myself. So maybe people who live in Gaza, they have certain kind of condition. They have to side by side with the risk, with the drone, with the bomb. But the mix difference between when you die as a martyr in Gaza, it's a very different with the Marapi. So when the Marapi people believe they become an ancestor, they become a spirit gather in the mountain, right?
Right.
But when you got bombing, what I heard the story from the Indonesian hospital, medical workers, it's mentally, it's very unexplainable when you get bombed. You're not considering as human when you get bombed. So it's worse than rat. I think worse than virus. You just get bombed and demolished. So that's why the mantra, I think, have to be expressed in a very different resonance. So I following the mantra to the volcanoes, but in the same times, I pay so much respect for the people in Gaza by not removing the meanings, but just the feelings to believe that things will free from the fear, will free from the occupation, just to believe it maybe to the people who live with the risk in the volcanoes, and suddenly then you can really kind of manage it. It's like live with the nuclear bomb
Yeah.
side by yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like Indonesia is not a place that is removed from, like you were saying at the beginning. It's like, when you find yourself as a important axis of power, you find yourself at these fault lines, and you become exposed to the full weight of like the military industrial complex, which, I mean, yes, of course, it's different when you have the CIA overthrow of Sukarno. Many things are different, but many things are the same. When you have like this American supported and I should say also European supported genocide taking place, and this enormous weight, in many ways, the only way to deal with it is to find this little fulcrum, right? Like to find this small stone or this small log that you put under a big weight, and then you can somehow like ease it in some way into a different pivot to try and in some way survive it. So I really, yeah.
Well, it's nice to have a little bit moment silent.
Yeah. And that was Glass Assembly by Ai Yamamoto from her 2019 album Remembering. Irwan, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been wonderful. If there's anything else you wanted to add, or if there's any projects coming up, or things that people should check out, tell the listeners, tell the dear listeners.
Next month we try to be more close again, back to the coast. So we, with some friends, make a kind of dramaturg that will present openly to the public on site. So it's gonna be like landscape performativity platform. I hope it's gonna be works, and the weather is supporting as usual.
Yeah.
And then on September, I will come back to the volcanoes for the premiere of the new documentary film. It will screen with the live performance with gamelan music. So I hope it's going to be a good experience, an experiment for us and the communities.
Wow, fantastic.
The last words, Free Palestine.
100%. Thank you for joining us today for Radio Against Repression. And we hope to catch up with you again in the future, Irwan. And yeah, be well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Alex.